Hey guys, welcome to today's video on workplace wellness, why it's failing and what to do instead. So if you're new to my channel, hello, my name is Elika. I am an energy optimization coach and a trusted advisor for purpose-driven leaders who want to manage their energy because they understand that energy is their most powerful tool in order to create the impact they need in the world. So I wanted to go into today's video on workplace wellness because I really realized that not only as my business expands and I start to make larger impact in organizational teams, but for the clients that I do have, a lot of my clients are entrepreneurs, but those that are working in senior positions within organizations, that is such a big energy drainer to them. And I'm always looking at what resources can that structure, that environment give you that you are not receiving. Because I noticed the pattern in our ability to receive is equally our ability to feel an overflow in our energy. So I want to share with you a crazy statistic on workplace wellness. 76% of employees say that their wellness program by their employer does not support their real needs. That was a 2023 survey. So, but we know this already. Like, I come from corporate environment, went into my entrepreneur journey, and then went into hospitality, which has, there's health and safety, but health insurance, a completely different thing. But yet we see when people are trying to roll things out because they're supposed to, and we know what works and what doesn't work. So if you're trying to perform and you're performing at a high level, but you're exhausted, or you're just feeling wired because, maybe you're overstimulating with the coffee and the sugar and processed foods that you need to stimulate yourself in the workplace, or you're just checked out. We're talking a lot now about these silent resignations, and this is a big part of where people are just like, I'm here, I'm in, my physical body's here, but am I really, really here? Because it just doesn't feel inspiring. So I want to talk to that, and I want to say that I want to talk to you about why it's failing, and then it's going to become clear, which I'll move into, what we need to do instead. So the general workplace wellness is organised typically by HR, depending on the size of the organisation. Or if it's a small organisation, it could be somebody that's administrative that is also taking on that responsibility. And time again, I see somebody doing something that is not what they are trained, equipped, or experienced to do. And us as entrepreneurs know, like, we are wearing so many hats. So go figure, like, you have to do more than one thing. But, when we're trying to help people to choose healthy meals and we have no nutritional training, we're going to fail, right? When we're trying to create like fitness plans for people and we go, okay, they all need yoga, we're going to fail, right? So what happens is, in order to give the masses something that is a desire that seems to be coming up through some requests, we create these one-size-fits-all. And so when you look at workplace wellness, you either have these big model scales where they've hired these companies to give them an app where it's like, just check in and get your coach, or check in and do your fitness. And there's very, very little engagement over time. Or they have somebody that arranges certain experiences, but again, that person isn't really their expertise. So of course, they can't see the nuances of what each individual would need. So in our individual biology, our nervous system patterns, our menstrual cycles as women, our cultures, our identities, and even just like what creates stress for us is not tailored to in these wellness programs. So what you find are these programs tend to be very reactive. They're like reacting to what somebody has requested. They're reacting to a demand that we've been given to put something in place. And because they're reactive, they do not work in a very preventative way. And true health, as I always talk about, is about building a lifestyle. So most interventions happen after people are burnt out. They happen in a way that it's not built really to think about sustainably helping people progress along the way and measuring that success. So wellness tends to be, in the corporate environment, very performative. It's like a tick box exercise. There's no depth, there's no personalisation. And most importantly, what I see is that it lacks emotional safety. And that can either be through cultural safety, your individual identity as well, your values, but it lacks an emotional safety that allows people to say, I'm not okay, or, that's not going to work for me. And so what happens is it's like, okay, yeah, you put the candle in the room, the candle smells nice, but there's still a bad smell that we haven't dealt with. There is still a big bucket of rubbish over there in the corner that's got rotten food in it. It's like, do you know what I mean? It's like you haven't really addressed the thing at the root cause. And so what you are doing is then just treating this symptom by showing that you're doing something, but that something doesn't get the result. And, I must add that this is really reflective of when individuals tend to go on that journey of personal and professional growth, and they do it without any help. And so what happens is you get to fix everything that's on the surface, that's low-hanging fruit, like diet and exercise, but you don't really go deep. So I'm going to share with you now what I do with organisations, but equally how you may be able to propose this to an organisation that you're working with, because this could be like a blueprint that you could either adopt yourself in thinking about how you could utilise what they do offer better, or you could, get some guidance on how they could improve what they've got already based on what's missing. So I have a multi-layered approach when I'm working with organizations. And the multi-layered approach is to identify that different individuals at different levels, different experiences, different genders, races, cultures, all of that are going to have completely different needs. And so I need to figure out, how do I tailor to all of that with still providing volume that might be required depending on the size of the business. So I can work with an organization that has, 2 or 3 people, all the way to an organization that has thousands of people. And I also respect in that. That's because not everybody also wants to get some support from their organization. But offering that is really important. So to me, that top layer is where I serve one-on-one. So that's what my signature program, the Health Concierge, is about. It's about working with the top 10% purpose-driven leaders who want to create a big impact in the world and want to create harmony personally and professionally to do that. So I take that approach and I work with the top layer of the executive team. I personally believe that if you want to change human behavior in an organization, you have to do top-down approach. If you see your manager working late, coming in early, eating at the desk, even with the best will and intention, you will naturally feel that is what you're supposed to do. If your manager emails you really late at night, yeah, you might dig your heels in and go, I'm not going to reply. But again, that person is sending a signal that is the norm. And so when we do these signalings, we know that certain people, again, who haven't necessarily had the support in their own beliefs, their own identity, they are going to want to people please, or they're going to want to do the things that gets recognition. Remember, a workplace environment can typically mirror for individuals what they've experienced growing up because of the relationship dynamics that you have of seniority and, recognition from certain things. So in that top level approach, what I'm looking at there is really addressing very senior leaders and their thinking and how they integrate higher level beliefs that create more harmony within themselves, personally and professionally, and how those habits are displayed in how they show up for others. And that's just not just physical, physically showing up confident, in good shape, looking like you're taking care of yourself, these sorts of things. But it's also, how they show up emotionally, right? Like, are they regulated? Mentally, do they seem stressed, or do they seem like a grounded frequency, like a harmonious person, an energy that feels safe for other people? So all of these things are required when I'm working at that top level. So personalize, very high level individual coaching for that individual based on where they believe that their gaps are, what I identify as their gaps. And I'm using human design as my blueprint of how I dig really deep. Obviously, I've spent 9 years studying human design. So I go into lots of different nuances in the chart that you can't just do when you use AI or when you get somebody that is just using human design as like a theory and just reading textbook stuff to you and with no, lifestyle experience. and coaching experience of actually guiding people through the integration of their own design. And that's the most important thing about that. And then, of course, with the high-level coaching, we also want to look at functional medicine. So I also look at the individual's physical body and anything that might be needing support. So we go from the layer of nutrient deficiencies. For women, we tend to have to look quite closely into hormones. We also look at things like the gut microbiome. So we want to know that there's a healthy gut, and because the gut-brain axis, that connection is so important. Clear mind, good cognitive function is really reliant on a good functioning gut. And then we want to look at, their mental well-being generally. Like, so, what do they think? How do they feel about certain things that are happening in their life? Do they have clarity? Do they have confidence? All of these areas that, individuals at this level have to some extent, and generally have done quite a lot of work, but there's always gaps. And what we want to do is recalibrate those leaders and plug in the gaps where the system is not doing so. Okay. So in the second layer of what I look at is, I'm really trying to speak to a wider audience, and I'm really looking at energetic culture rebuilds. So what do I mean by that? So how I offer it is in speaking engagements and masterclasses on real life topics. So I can work everything from how our nervous system works, which I've done videos on that in here, through to burnout recovery and what does that look like? What does the journey look like when the body is literally healing from burnout? All the way through the infradian rhythm. So that's a 28-day cycle that governs women's natural energy. So whether the woman is perimenopausal, gone through menopausal, doesn't matter. We are all regulated and governed by the moon, that 28-day cycle. So I can do that. And I also love emotional resilience. So like energy in motion is emotions, right? So your connection to how you feel and the decisions that you make. And then, of course, we also love bringing in the individual element to people knowing who they are and how they might differ from the rest of the people in their tribe. And so that's where human design comes in. So I have multiple different layers, and I tap into it based on what I can assess is the demands of that organization and the needs of that organization and the common patterns that I'm seeing that I'm getting feedback from. And I get feedback obviously first from various members within the management team. So then I go into the next layer, and the next layer is really what I would say it's like an open door support. So an open door support allows me to have presence, and sometimes in different organizations, it can be somebody that has been on my expert panel. And that is an open door where there are certain hours allocated a month where that person is on site and has an open door, and people can go and actually ask questions. And those questions can be so varied. So that's why for me, my vast of, over a decade now of coaching, especially at senior leaders, entrepreneur level, it's really about not just the generic stuff like, what food is good for me, the things that you can just find in Google, but it's the thing that is showing up for that person's life right now, and where the conventional method might be the right thing to do on paper, but there is a sense that there is another path. And so when I have these conversations with people, it's so much about listening to what they're sharing and what beliefs they have around it or what they should do, and then really embedding in the truth. Because, when you work like me, when you've worked for 10 years working with individuals, you understand that sometimes the truth path in what the person wants isn't the straightforward path, and it isn't the textbook version of what is right for them. So this really allows people to get like that drop-in, session, and to feel heard, and to get a micro level of coaching in a very non-judgmental, should I say, proactive and emotionally safe space. So think of it like an emotional cheerleader for you and for the teams. And so when we pull all this together, what I want you to think about is, what can you tap into from your organization that could help you, and what is missing that you might need to get elsewhere? So you might realize that, my organization, they offer coaching support, but I can see that they've just got this company and they've just got generic coaching and we coach by the hour. And I don't feel like there's going to be that high level, like, I absolutely understand what this person is about. I think this person could understand me. I don't think it's going to get me that depth and quality. I think it's more of a tick box coaching company that have just got a whole database of coaches that have just got their qualifications. And I think that's the support that I'm going to get from there. So I'm going to invest maybe in more, and maybe you're going to ask your organization if they can pay the difference, or maybe you're going to ask your organization if they can pay for that person, because that person, for you can warranty why you need them. But clearly you're going to have to go, if you want your organization to pay for that, you're going to need to have a case built for yourself as to why you need that. So that first layer is looking about that really depth of personalized support. That second layer, if your organization already does workshops or masterclasses, I always think that, I dedicate hours, okay, let me just be real. I would say about 3 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week on my own personal growth. So that's how much I dedicate myself. But again, I want to practice what I preach to my clients. So I want to be in overflow and be prepared for any nuances that come up. And that's why I'm never surprised or never able to not help a client, because honestly, the breadth that I've had to go within myself makes it so much easier for me to relate that to clients, even if their situation is slightly differently. So that second layer, your company might have workshops or masterclasses. What I would say is allocate 2 hours a week to just go through them. Because a lot of these are recorded videos, so the recorded do it. And of course, if they're in the office, give yourself that. Give yourself the opportunity to just attend, create space and go for it, because this is a resource that your organization is providing for you that you therefore get to utilize for free. And I think that because companies do these generic stuff, sometimes it's like, oh, it's another one. But here's the thing. When you go to those situations, you're also going to find the people in your company that are like-minded. So maybe you meet a new friend from work that you didn't really connect with because you didn't realize that they shared the same value around well-being as you did. Or maybe it is that the person that is a teacher, they're not the right person for you, but they can connect you with something that you needed. So it's really worth attending those, or allocating 2 hours a week if there's any online training that they provide, to just actually work through some. And obviously, when you're choosing which one you want to work through, if it's online training, for example, on the portal, then I would recommend that you sit intuitively, look at what is available and decide which one you need. Then that last layer, so if you think about the last layer is the open coaching. So if you have access to a high level coach at the start, like I was mentioning at the start, where you are getting that one-on-one, but a high level coach. So not kind of like, there are a lot of, I mentioned companies that have databases of coaches. Now, you'll see there's a reason why I'm not on those databases. They're very generic. They would pay me a fraction of what I would earn, and obviously what I'm worth. And I get it. A lot of coaches do that when they're starting out to build their businesses. But again, you have to ask yourself, and if that's right for you, this is definitely not right for the clients I work with, but if it's right for you, that you're okay with working with a coach that's just starting out, which means you're a little bit of a guinea pig, then fine. But what I would say is that if you get that high level coach, then you don't need an open door policy coach in your company that you can go to. You can use that person to run ideas by them if they're available. Of course, again, it's another free resource. But that's why I say invest in the high level coach that is very, very integrated, that has, a lot of experience, because you're going to fast track your process then. Whatever it is that you want, whether you want to strengthen your relationships, you want to attract somebody amazing into your life, whether you want to build, financial wealth, whether you want to be in the right size body or make improvements to your health and well-being, you want to have somebody that can fast track that process for you, that can identify immediately your gaps and take you on that journey and quantum leap it. So when I work with a client on the Health Concierge for 12 weeks, I can see within 4 weeks that we've pretty much got the results that they thought they came for, but I have bigger vision for them. So I'm like, now we're going to also do this. And now we're going to start build future legacy, all of these things that you didn't even think of, because maybe you were in survival mode, or maybe you thought, as long as if I just have this, I'll be happy. And I could see, and you can have that and this as well. So I share this really as an invitation for you to look where your current organization has gaps that you might need to plug in yourself to really have the workplace wellness that you deserve, or to make some recommendations to them on what they need. There's a little bit of both. And if I can be that support for you, then I'm able to, with a lot of organizations, work online. So reach out to me if you think that's something that would be of use. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I would love to hear your feedback or any insights that you've had. So leave those in the comments below. And I always say that the best place to really learn about how to build a lifestyle where we keep our energy in overflow, because that's what we do, because we understand that energy is our most valuable currency. If you want that insight, then my newsletter is the best place. You'll see the details in the description box below. Sign up for my newsletter, because I'm sharing constantly my lifestyle, my hacks, the things that are happening with clients, and just generally getting you to understand what it's like to live life from overflow. So take care, and I'll speak to you on the next one. See you.